Right, hello, welcome, greetings. It's Dr. Thomas Daffern here again. It's the weekly philosophy club here in the middle of France, La Creuse, this department where all the roads meet. And, you know, they say all roads lead to Rome, actually all roads lead to La Creuse, because in ancient Gaul, which is the Druid heartland of Europe, there was a little village just up the road from here where all the roads did actually meet, called Châteaumeillon. I don't know why, but it's famous. It's been discovered by Druid experts. So yes, here at the centre of the roads. So anyway, greetings, and this is a very good time of year. It's the equinox time, where we're supposed to take stock because the nights and the days become of equal length again for a few days. And there's this sort of still period when the weather isn't quite as hot as during the midsummer, nor is it really full winter yet. It's kind of in the middle. And in the philosophical calendar, it's a time for reflection, pausing, thinking, you know, what have I accomplished this year so far? Have I acted right? Have I acted skillfully and judiciously in my duties? And it's also a time at which the world leaders come together in New York at the UN, and they all give speeches about the coming work that the UN's got to do. It's got a lot on its plate at the moment. With climate change, we've had terrible floods in Libya, and there are fires raging in Australia, Canada still. And there was a tragic earthquake in Morocco, which has damaged Marrakesh and places. You know, it's very, very sad. Although I don't think the earthquake's connected with global warming, but it shows that the Earth is a force to be dealt with. We should be humble as citizens here on this planet, Gaia. So that's just to set the tone of where we're at. And I've been listening to the world leaders speaking at the UN. I've heard speeches by over 20 nation states. Colombia, Peru, Cuba, United States, Iran, Germany, and so on. Some of these have been really, really good speeches. I mean, they're all speaking from their own cultural perspective. The head of liaison for the European Union spoke. Excellent speech. I think his was my favourite. The leader of Cyprus spoke. Ecuador. The UK chap, I think, who was the Deputy Prime Minister, I think is slightly bonkers. All he spoke about was AI. It was like a speech in promoting AI as the solution to the world's problems. AI standing for artificial intelligence. And he was announcing Britain's going to have a great summit on artificial intelligence in London, and we're going to save the world with AI, and if you haven't got the best, latest, fastest AI, then you're falling behind, and that's really dangerous because somebody else is out to get it. And they'll be spying on you. So this guy it was a paranoid speech in which AI is both the devil and the saviour simultaneously. And Britain has got all the keys and the codes, and we invented it, and we know what we're doing. So don't worry, we're going to save the world. But, you know, well, I just thought it was a paranoid and ridiculous speech. He never really mentioned, like, peace. Not once did the word come out of his mouth. And the whole point of the United Nations is to safeguard peace. Not once did many other really important issues like gender, violence, domestic violence, global warming even. You know, he was just AI focused. So I've thought up. I'd quite like to do a spoof speech, as if I was the UN representative from the UK government. I might record that. I'm not going to do the whole thing now, but. What I would say is that, and I've shared this with other groups, is that AI alone is not going to save the world. In fact, it might well damn us. AI is only as intelligent as the people that are programming it and designing it. And what we humans have to cultivate is not AI, but HI, which is human intelligence. So my first opening of this philosophy club is to make a speech plea for developing human intelligence. And what's different about human intelligence is that it includes morality, it includes conscience, it includes love, it includes feeling, it includes compassion, Human intelligence is different to robotic AI in that it cares. We actually care about the state of the world. We care about the people that are dying of floods in Libya. We care about the children of the world that are suffering from wars they didn't cause, or suffering the effects of global warming that they didn't start. I've discovered a wonderful statistic that 60% of the population of Africa are either 25 or under. In Le Monde's great sort of Atlas of Africa, this has just come out recently. It's for those people that we should be working, whereas in Europe here, only 25% of the world are 25 and under. So Africa has 60% of that youth group, Europe has 25%. So we've got to be somehow saving the goodies of the world for the next generation, not burning them all up and not ruining them all. We need to work out a strategy for long-term sustainability on this planet. Obviously, as a scholar, I want libraries of the world to be safe, not blown up in war. I want all the great scholarship, the works of philosophy to be handed on to the next generations for the next, 2,000 years and more, so that people have a chance to do degrees and become learned and appreciate the wisdom of former ages, instead of kind of trashing it and burning it and seeing it going up in forest fires. HI, human intelligence, is the moral bit. Now, AI can't replicate that. Whatever they say, whatever scam they put on it, AI will never be able to replicate that. And to pretend otherwise is just to scam money off people. What those guys are doing is military intelligence. What they can do is they can do spying on each other, and they're developing programs and softwares that can pick up every code word, in the universe. And then they can drop AI-governed missiles and bombs on each other. Now all that is against HI. If we humans are going to survive as a planet, as a species, which I would like, I quite like human beings, I am one myself, I love human beings, we have to develop HI. Now you've never even heard of the phrase, have you? Everywhere you look it's AI. Okay, that's what we're up against. Human beings have basically been rendered obsolete by this sort of robotic consciousness that's trying to take over. And then the third thing I've coined, and I suggest as a counterweight, and this is all the counterweight to my esteemed Deputy Prime Minister of my country, the United Kingdom, I'd like to recommend that he study DI. DI is divine intelligence. What's that? Well, that's my word for the gods, all the different gods. I mean, to me, they represent divine intelligence. And I don't care if you call it theos, the Greek word, or God, the Anglo-Saxon word, or Yahweh, the Hebrew word, or the Holy Trinity, the Christian word, or, and Amun, the Egyptian name. They're all reflections of divine intelligence. And I believe we humans work best when we work in concert with divine intelligence. That's what my job is as a philosopher, is to tune into the divine intelligence, which is also there behind the natural world. If I look at a flower, a tree, I couldn't have invented that. To me, it's a divine intelligence operating in nature through natural selection, through evolution, as A.R. Wallace and Darwin first pointed out. And yes, that's true, but there's an element of divine intelligence at work, which is beyond, I think, what could be explained by just random atoms and molecules dancing about. There's some divine intelligence coordinating nature, I believe. And that, I think, is something we should be investing in researching and finding out how we can enhance the beauty that we see around us manifest through divine intelligence. So I think all three are needed. We need DI, HI, as well as AI. And if we get all three calibrated and working together, I'm a specialist, in the DI department, but also the HI. And I'd be very happy to work with my AI colleagues to try and see how we can get, for instance, complete religious peace between all these warring religions. That I've worked out the programs for that, the algorithms, if you want, how we can get peace between all the faiths. of the planet. But we could team up with our AI guys to like disseminate that information. It's not in the hands of the speakers at the UN, who, the Iranian guy, the Pakistani president, they invoke at least the divine intelligence before they speak. They say, in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, before they speak. But then they don't kind of like, well, how do you apply that divine intelligence to solving, say, the Jewish-Palestinian problem, which has been eating away at the UN system since '48 when it first broke out. And the Palestinian president was pleading for recognition for Palestine, but the mainstream media in Israel just blanket people with propaganda paranoia that, oh God, we can't do that, think what will happen, terrorism around every corner. It's a fake, but how can we use AI therefore to get the good news of it's possible to make peace between these warring countries, cultures and people? So, not a mention of that from the Deputy Prime Minister of my country, which I think is Britain failing in its duty to help the UN solve these problems, because we, after all, helped found the UN. And it was a man I esteem, a man called Reverend Gwilym Davies, who was a Welsh vicar, Christian, who had the idea to found UNESCO during World War II. He thought, this stupid war, we could have stopped it had we got the teachers of the world together, and the scientists and the poets and the painters. So after the war, we're going to set up a thing called UNESCO. And they did. The first meeting was in London. And he was just a simple little old Christian guy in mid Wales, in a town where I used to be head of religious studies, Llandrindod Wells. Bless you. So on behalf of and he would record a message from the children of Wales each year to the world, because he believed in internationalism. And the Welsh people do, they're not crazy as the Tory party has tried to gaslight the English into thinking they are. The English people are okay, but the Welsh have got this streak of internationalism in them. That's why they didn't, that's why they've always supported peace. So look, let's carry on. Okay, let's turn now in this Philosophy Club to the DI question, divine intelligence, and I'll ask my friend here and colleague to select a couple of the cards. So I'm going to choose from the Tarot of the Gods, this book I've written, 2-volume thing. Which two gods, two aspects of divine intelligence should we study tonight? And see if we can calibrate them and make peace between them. Okay, over to you.
Manana? MacLear. Ah, yes, for sure.
If we've had him before, we'll not have them. Because we've already done him. This is the god of the sea, and you can see my comments on him previously. So we'll go on till we find one we haven't done.
I think we did this one as well, right?
We've done Qatar, yes. Yeah. So we won't include them. We're going to go on to new ground.
Yarma.
Okay, Diarmid. Yes, we haven't had him yet.
Super.
Right.
Okay, and next to him we have... Oh, how should I pronounce this? Enlil? Air?
Ah, Enlil, yes. The storm god. Last time we had him, there was a tornado, do you remember?
Ah, right.
So we hope that won't happen. Anyway, no, we haven't had him in this pairing game. Right, so that's very exciting. So we've got the 5 of water, the suit of the 5 of water, which is Diarmid. And my Tarot of the Gods is divided into the 4 suits of earth, air, fire and water. And this one is the suit of water. And the card number 5 represents this chap who was an Irish Gaelic Druid god, Diarmid. And he's really the god of love. So he's sort of the closest that the Irish have got in their tradition to Eros, or Cupid. He's a demigod. He's the son of Don, and he was a great lover of Grania, who was the intended wife of the leader of the Fianna, which was the protector band of guards that protected the king of the Irish. And its leader was called Finn MacCool, who was a famous druid. And Finn MacCool had this beautiful wife called Grania. However, Diarmid was very, very beautiful as a young man, right? Sort of like, to die for. And he was famous for what he had, which was called a love spot. Now, nobody knows what it was. It was something on his face, like a beauty spot or a piece. There's been many papers written about what was Diarmid's love spot. Nobody quite knows. But it made women fall in love with him instantly. For instance, one night he was out hunting. He met a woman who was the personification of youth. And he slept with her at her request, and she put a magical love spot under his eye. And that's what caused any woman that looked into his eyes to fall in love with him. Anyway, the story is the following. So one very freezing cold winter's night, a loathly lady entered the Fianna Lodge, where the warriors had all just gone to bed. They were sort of camped out on the straw. There was a fire burning. They'd been on a hunting expedition that day. And drenched to the bone, this freezing cold woman, her sodden hair was all knotted and snarled. And she knelt beside each warrior in turn, saying, "Can I share your blanket? I'm freezing to death." And they all looked at her and said, "You were really ugly, go away." "No way." But only young Diarmid, whose bed was closest to the fire that night, took pity on the woman and welcomed her into his bed, put the blanket over her. She then noticed Diarmid's love spot and said she'd wandered the world alone for 7 years. Diarmid said, there, darling, you can stay the night, no problem, sleep all night, and I'll protect you." And towards dawn, she'd become a beautiful young woman. She transformed. And she rewarded his kindness to her, and she was a druidess. She was a bit of a goddess, actually. She had that shape-shifting ability. And his greatest wish had always been for a house overlooking the sea. And lo and behold, the woman, there's the house. And so they went to live there in a perfect, union. But he had to make a promise that he would never mention how ugly she looked on the night they met. That had to never pass his lips. Okay, fine, no problem. Three days passed, and they were very happy and, made love a lot and all that. But him being a warrior and a hunter and all that, he grew restless. So she offered to watch his hounds and her new pups, while Diarmid went hunting. On 3 occasions, Diarmid's friends, envious of his luck because they were jealous, asked the lady visiting if they could have one of the new pups. And each time she honoured the request. Diarmid wasn't maybe quite as generous as we thought, he's only human. She's a goddess, really. Anyway, so each time he got angry. And he asked her how she could repay him so meanly when he'd overlooked her ugliness the first night they met. Oh dear. He'd promised not to mention it again, but he did it 3 times, and on the 3rd mention, the woman and the house completely disappeared, and his beloved greyhound just died. So poor old Diarmid, he had to learn the hard way not to break his word. He'd given his oath to this gorgeous goddess, You know, so there's a teaching lesson, and if this story was being told, you know, round the campfire in the Druid lodge, I would elaborate at this point and drag it out for a couple of hours, and explain the importance of keeping your word, but also maybe don't trust the woman that appears out of nowhere and offers you the moon, and like, oh, fantastic house, come and live here, you know, like test it a bit. Maybe don't sort of swallow the phantom lover who promises. There's a wonderful line in a Rumi poem, several lines to that effect, where he's fully aware of magic, Rumi, and he says, yeah, don't trust the magical lover that will offer you the moon. Check they're real, you know, because sometimes they're just fantasies. Anyway, Diarmid, however, was very upset. He realised his ungratefulness had caused him to lose everything he valued. And he set out to find the lady. He used an enchanted ship to cross a stormy sea. He went to the other world. He searched for the lady through meadows filled with brightly coloured horses and silver trees. 3 times he saw a drop of blood, and he gathered each drop into his handkerchief. When a stranger revealed that the king's gravely ill daughter had just returned after 7 years, Diarmid realised this blood must have come from the lady. He rushed to her side and discovered that she was dying. The 3 drops of blood that he'd collected were from her heart, spilling each time she thought of Diarmid. The only cure was a cup of healing water, which came from the Plain of Wonder. It's like Lord of the Rings, right? This is like the Mountain of Mordor. No, it's the Plain of Wonder. And you have to get the cup of healing water. But it's guarded by a jealous king and his army. Anyway, Diarmid vowed to bring back the cup. Then he came to an impassable river, so he couldn't even get to the Plain of Wonder. However, he was helped by the Red Man of all knowledge. I just love the Irish myths and legends and Druid tales because, you know, they have these wonderful archetypes. So the Red Man of all knowledge had red hair and eyes like glowing coals. And he helped Diarmid to cross the river. We all should be so lucky as to meet the Red Man. So he crossed the river, and the Red Man of knowledge guided him to the king of the Healing Cup's country in the Plain of Wonder. And Diarmid called out that the cup should be sent out from the king's castle to him, or else champions to fight with him should be sent out. This is their way of like getting on in life, as they threaten to fight each other. It's not a style that I think should be in vogue anymore. Most of my Irish friends have grown out of that. And fortunately, with my Irish Druid friends, we managed to get the Good Friday Agreement in place back in the late 90s. But some of the English have been weaponised back to the fighting mentality, and certainly the Russians have. And we need to grow out of that. The Red Man of all knowledge should, you know, have instructed Diarmid in a more peaceful way of resolving this. However, twice 800 fighting men were sent out against Diarmid. And in 3 hours, there was not one of them left to stand against him. Okay, it's Irish story, right? Okay, this is like one hero can defeat 800 men. This is Lord of the Rings stuff. Then, twice, 900 better fighters were sent out against him. And within 4 hours, there was not one of them left standing. Okay, well done, Diarmid. The king therefore finally gave him the cup of healing. I don't know personally why he just didn't knock on the door and ask politely, you know, instead of shouting, "Give me the cup or else send out your chieftains." Anyway, long story. On his return trip, the Red Man again advised Diarmid how to heal the lady. But he warned the hero that when her sickness ended, Diarmid's love for her would end as well. And it's true. Having cured the lady, he'd gone to all that trouble, beaten up like all those men, the love vanished. He cured her and then got an enchanted ship back to return to Ireland, to the Fianna, where he was greeted by his friends and greyhound. And the lady returned to life as her final gift to him. I think the implication is the lady who had the heart dripping blood was the same as the loathly lady that he'd helped and then lost. So then there are other stories, and the most important of these is called The Pursuit of Diarmid and Grania. And this is a very important story. So Grania was the daughter of Cormac MacAird. This happened a bit later, who was the High King of Ireland, based in Tara. And it was him who got the cup of truth off Manana MacLear. And Grania thought she was going to be marrying Finn MacCool's son, Oisin, or maybe even his grandson, Oscar. She didn't think she was going to be marrying the ageing Finn MacCool, who was getting on a bit. But Finn MacCool sort of fancied her, and they were pledged to each other in a sort of formal ceremony. They were like engaged, if you want. But she was a bit naughty, and she played a bit the role of Guinevere in the King Arthur stories, and wanted to go off with one of the knights. And so she determined not to marry Finn, but to run away with one of the champions of the Fianna. And she gave drugs in the wine of all the guests one night in the feasting hall, except for Oisin, Oscar, Diarmid, and a couple of others. Because she fancied this lot, they'd be young enough for her. She approached Oisin, who refused her request. No, I'm not going to run away with you and be your lover. You're pledged to Finn MacCool, my grandfather. Then she approached Diarmid. And Diarmid said, no, I'm not going to do that, because Fionn MacCool is my hero, he's my leader, I'm in his band. He's a great druid. And then she imposed a spell on Diarmid. Now that's very naughty, but some women do this. They make you fall in love with them, even though it's something that your conscience wouldn't really follow. And so Diarmid was henceforth absolutely spellbound. We say, of lovers that they're spellbound. Normally it's an unconscious thing, like an unconscious sudden attraction. I mean, I've fallen in love a couple of times with, and you don't know where it comes from, like bolt from the blue. I don't believe in my case the woman actually deliberately did a spell, as in this story, but it's like that. And poor old Diarmid then had to trot after her when she left the palace. She left Tara. Now, when Finn MacCool woke up then, the next day, and he heard what had happened, the couple had fled away, his fiancée and one of his best warriors and friends, he then set off in pursuit. And he got the rest of the clan to come round. And the story of how he pursued them relentlessly for like months and months and months, and the little battles and skirmishes, and they used every magical trick in the book. Diarmid and Grania, they disappeared in a grove of trees, they went up to the top of the trees, they vanished, they used cloaks of invisibility. They did everything to not get caught. But Finn MacCool was determined to catch them and punish them. So he kept nearly catching them. It's one of the great epics of Irish Druid tales. And finally, what happened in the end is that he finally pardoned them. He accepted that actually they were proper lovers, and he was getting on a bit, and he could have any other woman he wanted in the whole of Ireland. He was like really popular, and although he was a bit old, he was still very sexy. So he left them get on with it, right? finally, it took him ages and ages. And after Diarmid died, tragically, Angus took his body back to Newgrange. And apparently it's still there, and you can breathe life into it whenever you want to speak with the hero. So this is a sort of occult twist of the death that you can still contact Diarmid through spiritual work. I've been to Newgrange myself. It's like the Stonehenge of Ireland. It's an amazing place. In the days when I went, you could just go in any time of day and night and explore it. Now they put fences all around. You have to buy a ticket, and you can only go in a few hours a day. It's been all commercialised. But if you're sneaky, you can get in. Anyway, that's the story, and that's the Five of Water. And it's traditionally symbolises loss, because it's not a sort of, you'd think a god of love would be all happiness and plain sailing, but love is often about getting with the wrong person, the magical spell that you kind of don't expect, and suddenly you're in love with someone, and they with you, and how you then have to escape from the pursuit, you know. So it's a very human story, this, actually. And it's quite Celtic, quite Druidical, because the Druids, you know, the Celts don't claim to be superhuman, infallible, like they make mistakes, right? Like, no, they're human. They make mistakes, but they make up for it. And they find a way. The point of the Druid wisdom is to find a way, in spite of our humanness, to find salvation, to find redemption, and to find true love. And most of the Druids, a lot of the Druids became Christian because they saw in Christ the way of doing that. He was like, you know, the God of love, really. But not just physical love, but spiritual and divine love. So more on the DI side of things. But the Jesus story combines the DI with the HI, the human intelligence. Okay, so that's that one. Gosh, now then we've got the Seven of Air, Enlil. Do you want to describe what's on the card? Seven of Air.
Huge waves. A ship, and above it, a face with beard
Yeah.
and grey hairs.
Yeah. Do you remember when we got the tornado come, when we were looking at this card?
Yes, you told me about the synchronicity with this card.
Yeah. So, Enlil is a god from ancient Mesopotamia, associated with the wind and air and storms. He was a very important deity in the Sumerian pantheon, which is the oldest religious pantheon known to history and to religious studies scholars. And the Sumerian gods were worshipped by all the other people in Mesopotamia that came later. The Akkadians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians and the Hurrians. His main central worship was the Ikor temple in the city of Nippur, which is in Sumeria, in southern Iraq. And one of the reasons I was so against the invasion of Iraq in 2003 was, to me, it's a sacred land, Mesopotamia. It's the cradle of civilization. It's where the first writing was invented, first temples, the first cities. And I grew up in a family which really revered archaeology. So I read books about the archaeology digs of Iraq as a boy, and always wanted to go there. I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was little. I ended up becoming a, historian, which is like being an archaeologist, but you don't actually have to dig the stuff up. It's easier, in a sense, because archaeological digs are quite hard work. I did do a couple. Anyway, this guy was regarded as the god of the wind. His name, Enlil, means Lord Wind, or even Lord of the Winds.